Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a warm welcome back. We have two more lectures, of which first one will be by Professor Luka Janeš, and he will talk to us about psychiatry and transhumanism.
Thank you very much, dear Anna, and first of all, thanks to Peter and all the organizational crew for organizing this great event, second year in a row, and it's a great honor to be part of this again. I will briefly present in around 20 minutes a part of a research that I'm providing, that I'm dwelling for last, I would say, 10 years. Question of psychiatry, mental health is something that occupies me both in the research context and in the practical context. I'm into psychotherapy, education. I made my PhD connected to this frame, and the bioethical basis is, let's call it, a ground point for this, for providing my thesis and thoughts. In my talk, I think I won't provide a lot of answers, a lot of stiff answers, but more questions regarding it. But I hope that in discussion that I will induce some kind of fruitful discussion afterwards. We had great talks in our previous sessions. A lot of things, a lot of stances that we had chance to hear are connected to this point that I will present, but I will focus around psychiatry as such. Okay, I constructed my presentation in the following matter. First, I will provide a few introductory notes regarding etymological bounds and dividing lights in the context of transhumanism, bioethics, and psychiatry. Then I will try to speak a little bit about place of psychiatry in the world and in the context of history. Then in the third part, I will try to set question: could human be accurately defined at all? We had talks about this in previous session. Then I will provide a kind of bioethical orientation frame, and I will set question: can we speak about being human is a kind of possibility to care and capability to care for others first of all. Then I will speak a little bit about mental health, simulacra, and bioethical sensibility, and I will finish with some final remarks and questions. Okay, above things that I already mentioned, I will try to approach the issue of life, human, and health, considering the relationship between psychiatry and transhumanism in bioethical key. First of all, I would like to say a few words about these etymological challenges between bios, psyche, and anthropos. When we are speaking about bioethics, bios, life, is also, of course, a root. When we are speaking about psychiatry, psyche, somebody who would translate it as soul, is a basis of the given. And when we go to the ancient times, Greek times, when we are speaking about psyche, it hasn't been understood in the context of a transcendental, completely transcendental soul, but it was a kind of a life capacity of individual as such. And we will try to put this in the context of anthropos. Could we, in the context of digitalization, technicalization, speak about psyche as such and bios as such and human or anthropos as such at the same place? Following the given line, let's hypothetically ask, is transhumanism a form of transliveness? We had very nice thoughts through talk of Professor Kampa and Professor Ostrich regarding this. I would say that it is a form of transliveness, something that overbounds our traditional, of course, concept regarding the life as such. As well, let's ask ourselves can transhumanism learn us to become humans and to reach humanism as such? I'm pretty sure that we won't get some direct or complete total answer regarding this, but I think transhumanism can in a big manner make us closer to a question of human as such, and humanity and also humanism. When we are speaking about a place of psychiatry in the world, first is okay to set some kind of definitional frame or possible definition of psychiatry. A few of them are provided through various encyclopedias. I focused around this one from American Psychological Association, from their psychological dictionary. There is pointed that the psychiatry is the medical specialty concerned with study, diagnosis, treatment and prevention of mental, behavioral and personality disorders. As a medical specialty, psychiatry is based on the premise that biological causes are at the root of mental and emotional problems. Although some psychiatrists do not adhere exclusively to the biological model and additionally treat problems as social and behavioral ills. Training for psychiatrists includes the study of psychopathology, biochemistry, genetics, psychopharmacology, neurology, neuropathology, psychology, psychoanalysis, social sciences, and community mental health, as well as the many theories and approaches advanced in the field itself. I would say this is quite a nice definition. We can read from it the core, the main core of psychiatry is something interdisciplinary settled, and there's one part that this definition definitely misses, this humanistic frame, philosophical frame. I would say that philosophy is very important for psychiatry. When we are going back to the history of psychiatry, first let's call researchers regarding the mental health as such were philosophers, of course. And I think philosophy combined with bioethics can give us this stiff interdisciplinary ground for some kind of complete teleological frame of psychiatry as such, in the context of treating the soul in some direct translation. When we are speaking about psychiatry in the world, position of psychiatry in the frame of history, we can say that psychiatry was always a kind of big, great, important political question, great social question as such, and we could say that there is a great, or that should be a great responsibility and social jurisdiction of psychiatrists in psychiatry in the world frame of world development, of culture and history as such. And we can say that health service is a kind of social and political question. That's why I have this kind of critical notion regarding this institutional isolation in the context of psychiatric patients, in the context of hospitalization, as a kind of a paradox, because I observe health as a kind of the public good. When I'm speaking about institutional isolation, I'm having in mind this not just contemporary hospitalization mode, but when we're going back to the history of psychiatry or attempts in the context of development of psychiatry, we can see that the main idea, main methodology was to isolate, to put a man, person, human from the society as such. And as contrary, I would say that patients should be observed above all as a living person, as the legal autonomous entity, not a hospital ownership. This problem that was underlined by Ivan Illich, and he was speaking about heteronomy of being a patient as such, especially in his nemesis of the medicine. All, of course, it is connected to the issue of the psychiatry patient role. And my question is he or she becoming some other person after the hospitalization process? And of course, great stigmatization is still present in the context of psychiatry as such. I will try to provide some directions how to break this stigmatization and try to provide answers why this stigma is still so big and strong. And a few more issues worth underlining when we are speaking about contemporary psychiatry. We can say this psychopharmacal industry and psychopharmacal usage is a kind of chemically induced state of conscience. It is, I would say, the biggest development in the frame of psychiatry in the context of neuroscience is directed to the psychopharmacal usage. We had in our last talk a lot of great lines regarding these virtual realities, simulacral, let's call it like that, states of consciousness, and connect to this psychopharmacal usage and psychopharmacal mania, we can say. As such, I would say that there is still a kind of utopist desire all around the world to discover, to produce some kind of a magical pill that solves all of our problems, pains, and disorders. And when we are looking strictly to the history and development of psychiatry, Lagractil was found and product in 1952, and actually the great hope in the context of science and medicine and psychiatry was that Lagractil is a great pill of that kind, pill that will cure us from schizophrenia. 1952 is the beginning of psychopharmacal industry and revolution, let's call it like that, and till the today development of various cures, or let's call it like that, psychopharmacals have been, of course, produced, and a lot of money, great industry is connected to it. I see this, and I'm putting this in the link with the transhumanistic, some transhumanistic tendencies regarding the technicalization of the living person, and of course we are trying as humans to upbound our limits, to progress, to break our issues and limitations as such. And the question is, can we do it with some kind of pill, some kind of a virtual reality, some kind of technical miracle or something? This is for you to think about this. And the question that as well comes to me, can we avoid life without pain and anxiety regarding the death? And if we could reach that kind of stance, could we call ourselves humans as such? A few great thoughts regarding the mortality, regarding the life, regarding the soul were provided in our previous talks, and I think this motion of pain and anxiety regarding the death is especially important and present in the context of mental health issues. A lot of them are connected to fear regarding the death, fear regarding our pains, and let's ask, can we and should we live without pains? Yes, we would really like to, but I'm not sure that our evolution is providing us with this kind of directions. But let's think about this. My third point, question, could human be accurately defined? We also had notes regarding this before. Since human is always progressing and transgressing, it is very hard to define him or her. I would say it's kind of not really possible, because we are always in relation, always developing, and it's a question now in the context of transhumanistic phase and contemporary transhumanistic technicalization era to ask ourselves, is it this part of progress, is this some kind of stagnation or some kind of challenge to improve our directions and way of knowing a life, human as such? Yet it is a living relational entity induced both with its biological and cultural impacts. This is something that gives me a kind of closer look to the human as such. And let's ask one more hypothetical question. Can a person develop properly in this simulacra field space in the context of some virtual reality? When I speak about simulacra, I'm thinking above all about Baudrillard, of course, and his notion about reality that is more real than the real life as such. And could possibly transhumanistic, particularly virtual habitats, illuminate possible paths toward the given definition regarding the human? I think that can make us closer, as I already said. Fourth, regarding the bioethical orientation frame, one question that arose to me when I prepared my presentation, can we get closer to definition of human in the context of position of caring for others, of being empathical for others, being conscious about a life that is surrounding us in the context of some evolutionary wide prospect of time, space, and various interrelated factors. When we are speaking about bioethics, there are a lot of attempts to define it, but some close look to it. We can say, if we closely look to it, we can say that bioethics is observed as a kind of orientative field of encounter between various disciplines and perspectives, aimed to moral approach regarding the life on its various scales and manifestations toward its understanding and protection. So we can say that bioethics is striving to practice. If bioethics is not coming to practice, it is losing its, I would say, core intentionality frame. Let's call it like that. And one of the features that I find quite important for our discussion is that a bioethical approach towards the life of an individual, of the human individual, is approached from its biological, cultural, and spiritual dimension. And one of bioethical questions in the context of psychiatry, transhumanistic issue is the one: is transhumanistic field of virtual consciousness annihilating its spiritual dimension? Of course, we can speak about this, but one thought and discussion that I'm having with my students for years, and a lot of colleagues, that this classic spiritual frame, transcendental frame of overbounding our biological limitations in the context of some heaven or some transcendental frame or space, is in contemporary field, in contemporary era, being exchanged, transmuted in the context of this virtual reality, which is connected to the notion of endless life, of immortality as such. I'm not sure if I have quite a lot of arguments and research support regarding this, but I see a lot of, let's call it, truthful sentences regarding this. When we are speaking about bioethics, about the notion that it is a orientational, interdisciplinary, pluriperspective field, bioethical sensibility is something that is in the core of intentionality of all bioethical attempts and initiatives. And when we are speaking about psychiatry, about treating psychiatric patients, we are speaking about treating a living person, not a biologically fallible machine. This is actually something that is usually present in the context of various psychiatrists, not just in Croatia but worldwide. And this definition that we had, and at our first or second slide, is directed to this biological frame. I think epigenetics is and social frame is quite important, just like biological part as such. And I would say that we must be critical regarding this mechanicistic approach present in many of psychiatrists and various medical workers, but psychiatrists as such have I would say, even more responsibility to treat living person, not just a kind of a machine that is broken, that has a kind of issues and fallacies as such. One more point, that when we are speaking about psychiatric patients, we are speaking about person of a need, person of care, person with chance to progress prior to this diagnostical marcation, which is, I would say, a trademark of psychiatry in an institutional manner in the contemporary era. And we can say that bioethical sensibility, integrativity, and pluriperspectivism, which are some special and key features of bioethics, are in the core of the protection of the mental health in the society projects. And here in Croatia, we are developing one study program that is called protection of mental health in society, that is actually built upon the philosophical bioethical ground, and my faculty of philosophy and religious science, and the faculty of medicine are partners in this frame, and we are actually trying to do this some kind of experimental frame that could be a kind of institutional mode of some new episode of mental health protection. And actually our strategy for mental health for next 10 years is actually directed to this dehospitalization mode. This is not just in Croatia, this is in the whole European Union as such present. I will say a few more words regarding the mental health in the context of virtual simulacra and connected to bioethical sensibility, and in the frame of transhumanistic frames, attempts, and tendencies. Can we speak about virtual digital psyche? Can we combine this, or is this some kind of oxymoron? And I would add to it that in a world without issues, disorders, conflicts, and other mental health challenges, I claim that person cannot gain its humanity at all, I would say. And some researchers are observing transhumanism as a kind of a skipping moment of evolutionary steps. I wouldn't agree with this. I think that transhumanistic techniques as such are a part of our evolution, but as I had questioned a few talks ago, I think that if we rethink this hypothetical stance of a technological paradise, let's call it like that, in this virtual reality as such, it is clear, it is worthy to rethink. Can we speak about evolution as some kind of traditionally understandable mode? And one question that comes logically: have we evolved in the direction of necessary digitalization or technicalization of the human being? Are we ready for that steps? It's a question to you, of course. And one more thing, influence of transhumanization on the mental health of individuals. What am I thinking under this? Behind this, that a lot of people have a lot of fear, kind of paranoia regarding this mechanical world. But we can say that we live in the era of transhumanism, or we can say technicalization as such. We don't have to avoid this, but we have reorient, I would say, usage of techniques in the context of this bioethical orientation, bioethical sensibility as such, and rethink what the life is. Is life something that can be provided and put in the frame of some electronic device or something like that, in the context especially of some electronic consciousness or technical consciousness as such? And when I'm coming to this part of some final remarks and questions, I will provide it to you in the hope that maybe you can help me with my orientation, with your suggestions, comments, critique. Of course, I would say as a first final remark that transhumanism is a challenge, not a determination. I think this is something that is putting us to this rethinking about human life as such, and I wouldn't observe it as some kind of end of history, end of human. I think this is one more challenge, one more, I would say, chance to rethink our lives and life as such. And my question is there a chance for traditional biological humans in this digital, virtual, contemporary world to be present? And of course, when we are speaking about future, the issue gets stronger. And can virtual psyche help us neglect and annihilate mental health issues and challenges as such? I would be very happy if that would be the case, but I'm not pretty sure. And when we are speaking about bioethics, I believe that bioethical orientation could, sorry for this tip feller, could help us in many ways. I would say the question of care, empathy and sensibility as the key intentional steps can give us this notion of togetherness, of this, I would say, unbreakable causal life as we used to know it, and it can upbring this consciousness regarding the overall life community. So I would say in conclusion that first, or let's say a key mark of human is to be empathic, to watch for others, to be responsible for that that will be before us and what is after us. And I think in this step we can use transhumanistic steps as very healthy evolutionary steps to overbound a lot of boundaries and issues, but let's save life as such, because I think we are still ready to find humanism which is not dedicated and determined with a high scale of technology. I think there is some other parts to rethink, especially the spiritual frame of life, which is actually in the core of our culture, of personality, and which is something that we cannot just cut off and get in some different, let's call it, train as such. And thank you for your attention, and I would be happy if you provide some questions, comments, and I said critique as such. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you once again, Petar, and the crew for organizing this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Janeš, for this interesting lecture and new perspectives on things we knew something about, or someone maybe something more. Are there any questions or comments for Professor Janeš?
Yeah, thanks for the interesting talk. I very much enjoyed the fact that you stressed the spiritual and also philosophical aspect of psychiatry or mental health. So I like that a lot. I do want to challenge you a little bit on the definition question. So I think we do have quite a good definition of humanity, which I think holds up even in light of the transhumanists' efforts. Or so even if you subscribe to transhumanism, you could agree with it. So I'm an Aristotelian in that sense, pretty much. So human as zoon, logon, echon. So the being that is capable of, listening and also partaking in reason and speech. And from this, you also get like the possibility of distancing yourself from, your immediate animal desires and so on, and to using techniques. And just to put another definition out there that might be compatible with the fact of change, which you emphasized. So I thought your rationale for saying that there is no good definition of humanity is because, humans are changing all the time. But you could incorporate it into the definition itself. So Nietzsche has this famous definition of humans as one German, it's nicht festgestelltes Tier. What would be in English? Like not fixed animals. And so this is precisely our nature, that we're not fixed, And so that would be another I was just wondering what would you say to these definitions or attempts to of definitions.
Yeah, thank you very much for a great question. You know, when we're speaking about definition, we're speaking about the finishing something. I think man, human, is not finishable at all. So I think this is something that prevents us to get some direct definition, but we have very good orientation. You mentioned a lot of them, but I think that human, just like his culture, is always developing, always is in some kind of evolutionary scale. So I think that actually some kind of putting of human in the context of a strict algorithm, a strict technical machine point is something that could define or finish, I would say, human in this classical manner, but I'm not paranoid regarding this machine attack at all, but I think we should rethink it and actually ask a question, can transhumanism learn us to be humans? Can it help us to define human? I think it can help us to get orientation, but this finishing, I think, is something that is hardly reachable, let's call it like that.
Do we have more questions for Professor Janeš?
Thank you for a lecture, and I just want to say I agree that bioethics is the good answer to questions you asked yourself. You mentioned something about stigma as such, and I was thinking about it, and it seems to me like stigma of mental health problems is not as high as it used to be. It's lowering in contemporary society, maybe even to the extent that popularity of mental disorders is now getting higher and higher. So maybe even in the future you will be stigmatized if you claim you don't have any mental disorders. So can you comment on that?
Yep.
And one other thing, I think a labeling theory from sociology is very useful in analyzing such behavior of society. Thank you.
Yes, actually, regarding this point that you underlined about the stigma of not having a mental issue, actually in America, United States of America, this is something that is happening now. If you are in the middle or upper class, if you don't have psychiatry or psychotherapists or psychologists, you are not you are not present in this kind of class. So it is something that is happening also, but in the context of our local spheres, I think that corona situation, social distance, and I would say social media life that we were living just showed that in this period a lot of raisement regarding depression, anxiety disorders is in I think 300 to 400% higher than before, and it was a kind of time when we must speak about mental health issues. When in Croatia we have now very good programs, and actually this study program that I mentioned is a kind of way to destigmatize this stuff. And how can we destigmatize anything, especially context of mental health or psychiatric patient, is to think about it, to come to relation, to come to the some open field of encounter, because every other scenario is going to tabooize and stigmatize our lives as such. And which is paradox, one part of this story is very paradoxical, that all of us have a chance, great chance to get or be under some kind of mental disorders, and this frame of protection of mental health of society is actually based on this notion that we can all help each other, we can give our experiences and give this frame of life as something that is actually induced by empathy, by giving, by connecting, and not in the context of breaking some individualization frame of a parallel world, so something like that. I hope you are satisfied with my answer. Feel free to add. Okay?
Thank you. This is very, very interesting. And I have a question to you, but first I have to make a comment. to clarify the sense of my question. At the point that I read in your slides that the people going to psychiatrists to reduce stress, anxiety, and get rid of the fear of death, if I read well. Yeah? This, when I read this, I was thinking about Leon Trotsky. Because Leon Trotsky, at a point, he was much into human enhancement, and so we have to enhance human. We want them to be all at the level of Leonardo da Vinci and over. So we want to improve human with any means. We have with biology, applied biology. On the other hand, he said we have to. It was not much into life extension. He said we have to get rid of the fear of death, because if we get rid of the fear of death by modifying humans, we get rid of religion, and so we just focus on politics, technology, and we change the world. Then I was thinking about Martin Heidegger. They said, but that is what gives sense to life. So without that, our life would be meaningless. And then I was also thinking, okay, but maybe we should specify human life, because otherwise the consequence is that God's existence is meaningless because he's eternal. Also, humans, when they die, they become eternal inside the frame of Catholicism or Christianity. So their life is meaningless. So probably we have to specify. But the question is this. I'm not much into clinical psychology or psychiatry, but really people go to a psychiatrist asking pills to get rid of a fear of death. It's because much of philosophy and religion and even transhumanism come out from the fear of death. So that's the question, according to your experience, because I don't know much about this.
Thank you very much. I think my opinion is that we cannot get rid of fear of life, but I think we can minimize it in the context of discussion about this, because if we cannot approach directly to that, I think we cannot directly approach the life as such, I would say. Heidegger was very good in this notion, Kierkegaard even better. A lot of philosophers, especially in the context of existential frame, phenomenological existential frame, spoke about this. I think we cannot avoid that as such, but we can speak about that, I think, from the earliest phases from the scholarship or this educational frame as such. I think we won't be able to annihilate the fear regarding that as such, but I think we can minimize it as such. When we are speaking about psychiatry and psychology, people are not coming directly to psychiatrist because he is directly in the some kind of paranoia regarding his life, but a lot of, I would say most of psychiatric disorders are connected more or less with fear regarding our life, regarding our death, regarding the stop, or it's called like that, blockade or annihilation of our being as such. I think we can minimize this kind of sphere when we are speaking about broader sphere of life, not just my life, life that was before us, life that is surrounding us, and in the context of some a life space in the context of Merleau-Ponty or Husserl or many other authors. I think we can speak more and more and more widely open regarding the life as this context of bios in the context of Aristotle, the distinction between bios and zoe in the context of bios as life as such and zoe of particular life. I think we can frame our and direct our thoughts in this frame. I think mental health would be a kind of, I wouldn't say saved, but it could be improved in much, and we would get some kind of security. And I think that life is a very, very good instrument for it. And I think that we are usually coming to life and overbounding and stepping over the life and jumping over it too easily as such. I think we must speak more and research more about life and believe in life as such. I believe in life of human and humanism, and I think that transhumanism can actually be this kind of a challenge and direction into this frame to rethink, do we need life as such, do we need humans, do we need history, do we need pain, do we need health as such. So I think that we actually live in a very good era of history for rethinking these questions. Thank you very much for a great question.
If there aren't any more questions for Professor. I would like to thank you again.